Raise your hand if you think you have a fantastic memory. Raise your hands if you think you have a bad memory. A lot more hands going up right now. Here's the good news. It really doesn't matter whether you think you have a good memory or not. It's a fact that you can train your brain to remember better, to learn faster, and to achieve mastery in anything you want in your life. It is true that I broke a Guinness record in memory. It was also true that many years ago, I used to hold a world record in forgetting. And the good news is anyone can train their memory, anyone can become a fast learner, because today I'm going to show you my formula of how you can learn anything and master anything in a fun, easy manner. Now, one of my records is I memorized a number consisting of 1,944 digits. I memorized a deck of playing cards in less than 2 minutes. I also memorized a deck of 7 decks of playing cards in 60 minutes. So for those of you who are thinking of taking me to the casino, I'm available. We can talk about the negotiation later on. If you learn faster, you will stand out from everyone else. If you learn faster, you can go from underpaid to overpaid. Your learning ability decides your earning capacity. Many years ago, I used to hold a world record in forgetting. It's not official. If you ask my mom and dad, they'll tell you I had a lousy memory. In fact, I still remember one of those days when I'm 15 years old, my mom asked me to buy something from the shop. I got onto my bicycle, went to the shop, parked my bicycle, went into the shop, and as I was going into the shop, I totally forgot I went there on a bicycle. Walked out of the shop and started walking back home. And the most embarrassing thing was I realized I left my bicycle only the next day. Now, for those of you wondering what happened to the bicycle, well, you guessed it, I lost it. So I had a lousy memory. I went from a person with a lousy memory to breaking a Guinness record. These are some famous people. So what is common among all these people? All these people are masters at their game. And I always used to wonder, what is it that makes these people very, very successful? The secret of success. All these successful people, they are passionate, they have clear goals, they have a good purpose, they are hardworking, they are committed, they are confident. But one thing that many people miss out is they all have committed to lifelong learning. You name any person who has achieved extraordinary levels of success, I can tell you that that person has committed to lifelong learning. They keep on learning new things on a regular basis. I'd like to show you something really interesting here, which actually demonstrates to you what you can do if you train your brain. Now, I would request any 5 of you, all you need to do is to write a 6-digit number on this flip chart, write it a little big, so everyone in the audience can see. So one line, a 6-digit number. So I am going to go behind the flip chart, because I'm not going to look at these numbers for the next few minutes. All right, so if everything went well, you should be having a 30-digit number on the flip chart. Is that correct? Okay, big round of applause for everyone. Thank you very much. And please have a seat. Have a seat. Okay, now what's going to happen is I'm going to stand behind the flip chart. And Angela, if you don't mind, can you please call these numbers to me out loud, one by one? Yes, sir. Go ahead.
7.
Right.
7.
Right.
7.
Right.
1.
Right.
2.
Right.
5.
Right.
3.
Right. So thank you very much. Big round of applause for Angela here. Perfect. Thank you. So what's going to happen is I'll try to recall these numbers from my memory, and let's see how it goes in the backward sequence. Challenging myself. Who knows? Four, 3, 5, 2, 6, 1, 5, 9, 2, 8, 9, 1, 3, 7, 7, 0. Not yet. 3, 0, 2, 3, 7, 6, 8, 4. It's 0, 2, 1, 7, 7, 7. Thank you very much. So the question is, how do you learn? So it all starts with input. Now, most people, they just focus way too much on input. They go to seminars, they read books, they watch videos, they listen to podcasts, they follow blogs. It's input, 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 and more input. Well, there's nothing wrong with learning. The problem is, if you have too much of input with no output, what happens is you have shallow learning. What we want is not shallow learning. Well, how many of you had this experience where, some of your friends come to you and say, hey, read this book. And then you go, yeah, what do you learn from this book? And then they go, it's a good book. It's a good book. It's a very good book, We don't want shallow learning. We want deep learning. And how do you do that? For true mastery, you need to focus more on the output rather than the input. When you learn something, if you don't use it, if you don't output it, you lose it. And here's my formula of how you can be a master at anything. The first thing is, of course, learn, which is what you already are doing. Now, the interesting thing is, when you are learning, you must ensure that the quality of input is really, really high. You must be paying 100% attention. But the problem is, when people are learning these days, what do? They do multitasking. Because of what? Because of the devices that you're actually holding right now, because of the phones that we have, people do multitasking. Just imagine, when you're reading a book, when you're watching a video, you have your phone nearby. And while you're reading, while you're learning, while you're understanding, and the phone message goes off, there's a notification goes off, what do? Of course, you attend to it. When you attend to it, what happened? What you just did? You killed your momentum. Your quality of input determines the quality of retention. How well and how long can you remember information? It also affects the quality of recall. That's the reason why my suggestion is, if you are learning something, at least for the time you're learning, you should be doing not multitasking, but the exact opposite of it, which is single tasking. Do one thing at one time, especially when it comes to learning. Stay away from distractions. Pay 100% attention. And then you'll be well on your way to mastery. The second thing, of course, is reflect. Now, many people are in the rush to learn new things, which is good. But the problem is, you also need to do reflect. What do I mean by that? After you learn something, pause for a while and ask yourself, hey, what's the takeaway from this thing? And how can I use this information in my life? How can I use this information in my work, in my family? When you pause, when you reflect, when you ask these questions, that's how learning solidifies. And after reflect, the next step is implement. And this is where the magic happens. And unfortunately, many people miss out on this thing. What they do is they go on learning new things, they get excited, and they feel good, they feel inspired, and they go on to learn something new. You just messed up. Now, the problem is, if you get into the habit of just learning without implementation, you know what you get? You get illusion of competence. You feel you've learned it. You feel you're competent, but it's not competence at all because you haven't implemented. So my suggestion is, when you are learning something, stop. Write down what are the few things I can take action on. Schedule it in the calendar and take some action. And of course, the last step is share. Raise your hand if you heard this thing before. The best way to learn something is to teach it. When you learn something, just output it. Just share it with other people. Now, if you don't know, if you don't want to teach, you could just share it, you could just discuss it. But what happens is, when you share things with other people, what you're doing is you're helping your brain to pay more attention. I have not seen anyone who became a master at something just by doing the input. They all became masters by doing the input and more of the output. If you're spending X amount of time on input, my suggestion is at least spend 2x amount of time on output. And if you're not spending more time in output, that's not a good thing. Now, coming back to the numbers I memorized, I know you're wondering how I memorize these numbers. Now, for that, I have a simple system. It's called visualization and association. So what I do is, I have pre-assigned visuals for every 2-digit number. So what I did was, I tried to convert those into the number visuals that I already have, and I use association to link them up together. Now, if you're wondering, Nishant, how do you do so fast? That is where implementation comes in. When you practice, when you implement it, that's how you become a true master. And when you do that, you are well on your way to be a master at achieving anything you want. Here's the good news. It really doesn't matter whether you think you have a good memory or not. It's a fact that you can train your brain to remember better, to learn faster, and to achieve mastery in anything you want in your life. What's the point of learning something if you can't implement it and benefit from this? That is pure intellectual entertainment, nothing else.